Hello, I do see one person. Let's see. We will start the program shortly. Welcome and thank you for joining in. Let's see. Okay, 4 more minutes. Hello. Welcome to the program. We'll start shortly by the grace of God. Okay. I see Mr. Olamide Olufade. Welcome to the program. Hello, Khadija and Ali, Linda. Welcome. Thank you for joining in. We're just going to start in about 2 more minutes. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. I hope everyone's Friday is going well. You can share to invite your friends and family, so that way we would have more people that will benefit from the program. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate you. Do have 1 more minute to start the program. Thank you for joining in. Let's see. Hello everyone, my name is Hajia Amina, popularly known as Her Excellency. Welcome to the program today at Sharing Life Issues with Her Excellency Hajia Amina. So we're here today to discuss about religion's perspective on infidelity. A lot of times I believe, or I've seen a lot of people, because I've asked a lot of people this question, and I believe that people are getting it confusing, because it's like we've seen a lot of marriages break and we wondered, this person has really been very religious. What's going on? What's happening? And this person really goes to the mosque. This person really goes to the church. They know the Quran, they know the scripture so much. But it seems that people like that sometimes are the ones that have these broken marriages. And we wonder what's going on and where are we going wrong as a society. So we begin to ask ourselves the question, do we really know the meaning of the religion perspective of infidelity? Because a lot of people get it wrong. My understanding of religion and spirituality is different. A lot of times people find it confusing because they believe when you're religious, you're spiritual. No, it's not the same thing. When your religion is different from when you're spiritual. When you're religious, you do know about the scriptures. You do know about maybe the Quran. You know how to read the Quran. You do know about the Bible. You do know things about the teachings in there. But does that mean you're really practicing? Sometimes it's not the true case. We've found a lot of people that are very vast in the Quran and are very vast in the Bible. But at the same time, when you look at it, people are confused. They're not really following what they preach sometimes. In these instances, I'll give you a few instances later on. But right now, I do want to go into religion more and also spirituality. So sometimes we find people like, I am Muslim. In my religion, a woman is supposed to wear the hijab. And we do find out that sometimes people believe you're not religious if you're not practicing the right way, if you're not wearing the hijab. Do not get me wrong. I'm not here to tell you not to wear hijab. I'm here to explain where we're going to today. Because right now, we do have a lot of people being confused. So I do have people that have been married because they saw a different thing in that person. So sometimes people look at you and it's because you're wearing that hijab. Maybe you're a hijabi. That's why they got married to you. Or because you are going to the church as maybe some choir mistress or something. That's why they got married to you. Or the mode of your dressing. That's why they got married to you, thinking that you're a spiritual person. But these people forget that being spiritual is different from being religious. Like I said earlier on, when you're religious, that means you do know about the teachings. But when you're spiritual, that is more connection between you and God. It's only God that knows who worships him. So like the Yorubas will say, Ọlọ́run nìkan ló mọ ẹni tó ń sìn. So at times, a lot of people would look at you and judge you, but you cannot judge the book by the cover, like they say. So I'll give you 2 instances today on this program, and we can talk more about the religion perspective later on. So I do have a brother who is a Muslim, who unfortunately is not, he does have kind of like a PTSD right now, so he wouldn't be able to share his program, sharing this program about what he has been through. But a lot of times when we hear things about, oh, marriage is breaking up, you think maybe it's the man that is leaving the woman. But in this instance, unfortunately, this Muslim brother got married to a hijabist. A hijabist is someone who wears the hijab. And his thinking was like she was the whole world, like she was very religious because she was always talking about the Quran. She knew how to read the Holy Quran. But unfortunately for him, he was confused because he was thinking that this lady was spiritual. Again, being spiritual is different from being religious. At the end of the day, he found this lady always complaining about him, not knowing how to read the Quran. She would correct him, and, you know, he had to take classes with some Muslim scholars to improve himself in regards to knowing how to read the Holy Quran. But what happened later on shocked him, that the lady he got married to, who was a hijabist, who knew the whole of the Quran, was sleeping around with the imams at that mosque. And the same imams were the people that he would report to and tell them that his wife was misbehaving, and they would, advise him to continue with the marriage, or Islam says this, Islam says that. So I want us to really pay attention to ourselves, that when we're trying to think that people are religious is different from being spiritual. Because in this instance now, he got really confused. He got inspired by her hijab when he was getting married to her. He looked at her and he was like, whoa, this one is like the best. Probably if he saw somebody wearing something that was not, all covered, he would think that one was a whore or a prostitute. And here he had this hijabist who he had thought that would be the greatest person on earth, who was not even ashamed of herself, but was happily sleeping around, not just with one person, but with multiple people. And to crown it off, with people that are supposed to be leaders in the mosque. So when we're trying to judge people and when we're trying to preach, we should really be careful about what we're preaching. Because sometimes the people who are preaching to us are not really practicing what they're preaching. They're not really practicing what they're preaching. So we really need to stop condemning people, because sometimes you see people would say, oh, this person is not religious because they're, listening to music, or this person is not this. But what determines who is really, religious when it comes to infidelity and religion? What perspective do we have to look at? Because in this case, he was really confused. This was one instance. Another instance is about another brother who is married, but his wife was not here in the US. And it happened to be that he was also messing around with another married woman whose husband was in Nigeria. All these people we're talking about today are very religious. This woman he was also messing with was another hijabist. She was a professional in the medical field. But unfortunately, her husband was not here. But with even things like that, even if your husband is not here, there's this thing people need to understand, that if you do need to mess around, you really do not need to have other people involved. So now, these innocent people get married to you with the religious perspective, thinking you're the best person that they've had. And then, unfortunately, they get to find out that you're something different, like you're a hypocrite. So people really need to start knowing their boundaries when it comes to religion and when it comes to playing with other people's heart. And it's high time we, the religious leaders, preach what we practice. So if we're talking about things that have to do with marriage and infidelity, then we need to really look at things that what is causing this breakup. Because a lot, like I said earlier on, a lot of breakups comes from people who know the Quran and who knows the Bible and the scriptures. But where are we going wrong? We need to sit down and ask ourselves, where is our marriage is going wrong? One thing with infidelity is that if you're going around sleeping with people, that means you're not focused. Once you're focused and you do want someone and you're going out with someone or you're married to someone, then you do know that you have to concentrate on that particular thing. If the religious teaching taught us that we need to be honest, we need to be kind, we need to be loyal. Because it's not only love that keeps a marriage. Believe me, you do need to have the respect. If you're not respecting your partner, all of this would not come through well. So without the respect, without the kindness, without the loyalty, we would see a lot of marriages breaking. But where are we going wrong? Nobody knows. Or people know and they just ignore things. Because sometimes, like Islamically, a guy would say, I'm allowed to have 4 wives. Okay? But we do have a way Islamically that you have to do that. And with the Christians, I do believe that you're only supposed to have 1 wife. And when infidelity starts kicking in, do we question ourselves that what makes this happen? Or do we just sit down and just let everything continue like that? So if we are spiritual and we know what is expected in the Quran and we know what is expected in the Bible, then we need to start practicing things like that. If not, we will go around bleeding on people that we shouldn't bleed on. Because they are innocent people that come to us innocently because of how maybe the mode of our dressing, or maybe because they know how we do know the Quran, or maybe because they do know how we do know the Bible. And at the end of the day, they find something different. Sometimes the religious does not let you probably marry the person that you do want to marry, because sometimes people would have a different spec, but because of the society, because they want to pretend, they would go for somebody that they're not supposed to be with, maybe somebody that they're not even in love with. So you find people having a spec. Maybe a guy have a spec for a woman who, dresses sexual, who dresses really sexually or wears tight clothing. But because of the religion, he would rather go for somebody who is wearing the hijab. And then at the end of the day, he's frustrated. And then he finds himself looking out there for his spec. I see somebody wrote here, I'm a victim of such. I'm a victim of such. That is sad. It is sad because we all have our wants and we all have what we're looking for. So we need to all have conscience and we need to all start thinking not just about us. If you do want a prostitute, they do say that a man wants a modest woman. But sometimes they will say a man wants a whore in a bed. If that's what you want, please do go for it. Don't get other people involved. Do not get other people involved. If I do want a man who looks ras, then let me go for that. If I do want an imam, then let me choose to go with an imam. But do not let other people, do not bleed on other people. Do not come with other perspective, making people think that you are very religious and here they are getting married to you and then they are stuck. Imagine buying something from the store and thinking that, okay, this is supposed to be green. And then you get home and it is blue. How would you feel? Do you have a conscience? I want you to ask yourself. So if people are looking at the religious perspective to be with you, you have to start thinking that, do I really want to hurt this person? This is not just about you. It's about everyone. Because I've seen men that are with people that are, hijabist. And at the end of the day, they are busy flirting with people on the other side. On the other case of the other man that I was talking about, the other instance. So I gave you an instance about a man who married a hijabist and at the end of the day found out, she was messing around. Now, if that guy was to come out and explain to anyone, would we believe him? With the religious perspective, they would say he was lying because she's wearing hijab. Probably, if she was maybe dressed, maybe with a dress or not even covering her head, they'll be like, oh, that one, she must have slept everywhere. But because of the hijab that she's putting on, people will look at him like he's crazy, like he's just trying to blackmail her. On the other hand, the other brother, who happened to be also, unfortunately, a Muslim, has a wife back in Nigeria. And here, he actually has a couple of women that he's sleeping with, but this happens to be one that we're, talking about. So, and most of the women that he's involved with are unfortunately married women. And this person is also a leader at the mosque. This is where we come in with the religious perspective. People look at this person like, he's the best, he's preaching to people, that this person would not do that. Imagine being a wife to this person, and then you come out and voice out your frustration and your anger. Would anybody believe you that this is what this person is doing? So it's high time we stop looking at things from this religious perspective when it comes to infidelity and things like that. Because sometimes it's not just, oh, my wife is not good on bed, that's why people are cheating. Or, oh, my wife does not look good. Sometimes it's already in them. It's not the religion. It's not about what they know in the religion. Because the religion says that, even Islamically, where it says you can have 4 wives, I believe there is a channel of ways that you have to have that 4 wives. You cannot just go around sleeping with women or even married women. That's a taboo. That's haram right there. So if we are practicing things, or if we are teaching things and saying that the religion says that we are not supposed to do this, then we should actually know how to go about this. Because it is quite unfortunate that people are always preaching, but they're not practicing what they're teaching. And unfortunately, like a brother here said he's a victim of such, I bet you he looked at that lady, that she was very religious, but not knowing that she's not spiritual. In my own instance, I'm a very spiritual person. Some might say I'm not religious, maybe because I didn't cover my head. I do cover my head sometimes. But should I be judged because I'm not covering my head? That's where we as religious leaders need to start waking up and talking more about. Remember, I'm not here to preach that people should not wear hijab. So do not get me wrong and do not misquote me. Why we're here today is because we're looking at infidelity in the religious perspective. And we're trying to say that if you are claiming you're green, stay in your green lane. Because with the religious perspective, you are what you say you are. But then at the end of the day, when they get married to you, you really are not what you said that you are in the first place. So that's frustrating. That is very frustrating. And at the end of the day, you bring in children into things like that, that would make them get confused. Because when you have children too, believe it or not, they emulate you. Is that what we want to teach the children about our religion? If I'm saying that I'm a very religious person and then I'm doing all the, fornications and adultery over there and things like that, does that count or shows me as being a religious person? So I really want us to start thinking about things like this. And I don't know, the brother who said that he's a victim of such, I don't know if you do want me to bring you on the program, or if anyone wants to come on the program and talk about this, I'll be happy to, bring you on. Because these are the things that we really need to start talking about. Because nobody wants to talk about it. And it's becoming really a big issue. Because this is kind of like in a case of a chameleon. So do not advertise yourself as being religious, and then you make people be with you and then find out that you're something different. Because that is very frustrating. That could give people depression. That gives people anxiety. I've seen people who are in the high class, who have good jobs, or who even are stay-home moms or stay-home dads that are high functioning, and because of all of this infidelity, they broke down. So is this fair that we go into marriages with a pretense? And at the end of the day, you make the other person look like probably maybe they are fools. Because with these two instances that I gave you now, if the first guy was to say, I saw my wife, or, like he said, unfortunately, he found out his wife was messing around through text messages. And this is the thing about this phone sometimes. That's why I say that you need to be open book when you're in a marriage. If you both can see each other's private parts, what is stopping you from seeing each other's phone? I do not understand. When people say that they need privacy, I don't understand. I do understand if you do have work-related things, but that's where you have a partner who has to know your boundaries. I'm not saying that you as a man or you as a woman should be snooping around your husband's phone or your wife's phone, but when it comes to things like this, that is where you don't have trust. Imagine this guy now, if only God did not make him to actually pick up his wife's phone and saw that the same imam who used to preach to him is the imam that was sleeping with his wife. Would he have known that she has been sleeping around? And to crown it all, it was not just one person that he found out that she was sleeping with, a lot of leaders. So it's high time we all start thinking about it. When we're thinking about infidelity, a lot of people always think that it's people that don't know about the religion that go into things like that. But no. I've done a lot of case studies, and I found that a lot of people that do all these things are religious people. And it's shocking, because you find out that people know, so they are very vast in the Quran, they are very vast in the Bible, but unfortunately they do not use it. Because if you do use things like that, if I say I'm religious, or I like to say spiritual, because that's what I am. I am very spiritual. So whatever I do not want you to do to me, I will be sure that I do not want to do to you. So if you married me and I was wearing a hijab and I came in to tell you that I knew so much about the Quran, or I knew so much about the Bible, then why don't we remain what we preach? We do not have to be chameleons. Be yourself. You do not have to pretend to be what you are not. Because like I said earlier, you bleed on innocent people. Time that they've spent on you, the money, it's something. And health issues come up with things like this. Believe it or not. So when we're doing things, let's always have the fear of God. When we're looking at things from the religious perspective, why don't we always just say it as it is? Because this is the reason that most people are having problems. You know? And then some people fall into having affairs simply because they feel that they are not appreciated at home. And that, they need to cheat. Is that why you're married? If your wife or your husband is going wrong, why don't you try and fix it? We need to ask ourselves, am I being the right person for this person? Am I being honest with this person? Because it's like a lot of people look at marriage like with the mindset of like, he's my servant. He's supposed to go out there and provide for me. Because religious wise, like Islamically, a man is supposed to provide for a woman. So sometimes you look at it like, okay, some people marry because of that. He's just meant to be providing for me. And then they end up with the person that they do not want to end up with. And then you find this infidelity coming in because that is not their spec. Then they start sleeping with another person. That's where the affair comes in. And then you start thinking about divorce. So why don't we always come into these marriages with a clear conscience and do not put sentiment and religion into this? Yes, Islamically, I will tell you, you're supposed to look at a woman's religion. Is she prayerful? Is she, am I marrying her because of maybe the religion? But at the same time, why would I pretend to be what I am not? So it's high time people really need to start thinking about this. Because it is sad. The expectation is so bad that people think, oh, I am just the person that should be receiving from this marriage. What about the other person? So when we're looking at things from the religious angle, we need to start also looking at it from the other angles. Am I meeting my husband's needs? Because a lot of times, the religious sometimes will tell you, oh, maybe a woman is not supposed to initiate sex. No. As a woman, I believe you should be able to initiate sex too to spice things up. It's not just a man's duty to do that. And as a man, you should be able to tell your wife what you do want or what you do also expect. And if she's not into things like that, you both need to talk. Because sometimes I've seen people who say, oh, my religious says that we shouldn't do this. My religious says that you shouldn't do that. But at the end of the day, the same people that are telling their partners that their religion is stopping them from doing things that maybe their partners are asking for are out there doing it with other people. Is that right? Why can't we just be ourselves? Because if we are saying that we are green, then we should remain green. If you are blue, you should remain blue. If the person wearing hijab is your spec, please do go for it. If the person dressing half naked is your spec, go for it. Do not marry a hijabist and then punish her at home and then go out there and be sleeping around with people who are half naked. You're traumatizing people. So if you are already with someone that you chose that, okay, this is who I want to be with, why don't you just work things out? Why would we be on this religious pretense that we're supposed to be this way, and at the end of the day we find ourselves that we are just on the infidelity cycle? Because it's now like a cycle. Like, people think I can just, be with this person and just switch the next minute. It's sad. Let's have a good intention. And let us be who we are. If you're coming to tell someone that this is who I am, and I am religious, then do not confuse them. Because you're confusing them. Because this is part of abuse. Because this is emotional abuse. Because that person was attracted to something different. I want a religious woman. I want somebody who covers her body. And at the end of the day, this is what I end up with. A woman that does, is doing something different. Or, I do not want a woman that covers her body. I do want a hijabist, so stick to that. Do not eat your cake and also have it. You cannot end up telling, I've seen men that would advise their women to wear hijab, and at the end of the day, they are there messing around with people that are half naked. And sometimes these women find different things that maybe on their phones or with other people that would come and tell them this is what your husband is doing, or even the women, this is what your wife is doing. So is this fair? So I think with this religious perspective, we really need to know what the meaning of being religious is and what the meaning of being spiritual is. Because a lot of people are confusing those two things. Because you cannot be religious and not be spiritual. But sometimes you find people doing that. But remember, when you marry someone, that is what they saw in you. That was what made them get attracted to you in the first instance. And now, it's like you're something different. So we need to stop confusing people, because there's a lot of confusion going on everywhere. There's a lot of confusion. This brother that I was talking about, the very first brother, he said to me, Hajia, I do not want a woman that would be even wearing hijab anymore. Now that lady has messed with his, with his mindset. Because really, it shouldn't be about that. Because he can end up with someone who is not also wearing hijab, who would do the same thing, who would also be messing around. So let's stop this thinking that people who are religious are not, into infidelity and things like that. Because with the numbers, it's happening more with those people. Because a lot of people come to you with their religious perspective, and it confuses people. So do we want to be the reason why someone else is crying? No. And I think it's high time our religious leaders start teaching people more in regards to marriages and infidelity. Because you shouldn't say that, okay, because I'm probably, say, a Muslim, I have a right to marry 4 wives, or my wife did not, give me food yesterday, or my wife did not sleep with me yesterday, so I'm jumping to the next bed, or I'm jumping to the next woman. What are you doing to change that? Look at it from another perspective. Let's not always look at things when it comes to, the people that we're dealing with. Let's not always look at things that we have to look at it from the religious angle. What else am I doing wrong in that marriage? Am I feeding my husband? Am I feeding my wife? Because sometimes the reason for this infidelity, believe it or not, some people start doing this nonsense because they believe maybe by religious right, my husband is supposed to be the caretaker of the family and is not providing, so I would rather sleep with other men to have that money. Or the husband is looking at it that he has rights, like I said, Islamically, to do other things. But even with the Islam, they did not ask you to go out there and sleep with people when you're not married to them. So we have to start thinking when we're saying that we as a people are, religious. That does not stop the people who are religious from doing all this infidelity. I've seen a lot of people give out their daughters to people in churches, to people in the mosques, because they believe that these people are religious and not knowing that they really are not. They are just saying that they're religious, but they're practicing something different. Because being religious does not mean that you're spiritual. So let's start having that good conscience and stop bleeding on everyone we see out there. It's not everyone that comes into a marriage with the aim that they want to, have a divorce. And when it comes to marriage and infidelity, believe me or not, it's not just one prince. The two of you have to work on your marriage to make it work. If the husband is, not doing what you expect him to do, religious-wise, you still have to talk. Like I pointed out before, I said some women go into infidelity because of the religious perspective that men are supposed to provide. And when they find that that man is not providing, they see it as an avenue that they need to, sleep around to get what they need. But is that why you got married to him? Is that the only reason why we got married? And as a man, if you feel your wife is not meeting your needs, why don't we talk about it? Why don't we find other things to fix it? Why do we always have to look at it from the religious angle that, okay, if this one does not work, by right, I can add another wife. I'm not saying you cannot add another wife. So do not come here saying that I'm preaching that people should not marry another wife. That's up to you. We all have different beliefs. I'm a Muslim. But my own perspective in regards to marriage is different because I believe a man and a woman should be together. Yes, but I do not foresee marriage working for 4 people in a marriage. I'm sorry. Because when you look at this sometimes, the men that actually go into those religious things saying that, I have to follow Sunnah, like the Muslims will say. If you have to follow Sunnah, why don't you use that energy that they already preached in the Holy Book? A lot of men are not going by what the Sunnah says. If you have 4 wives, are you not supposed to love them equally? Are you not supposed to provide for them equally? We find out that a lot of men that are even marrying these women is these women that are feeding them. Is that what the book says? Is that what the Islam is preaching? Is that what the Bible is preaching? You find out that a lot of men would preach to you about religion, but when it comes to the other aspect of, okay, this is what you're supposed to be doing also, then they turn their back and say that you're supposed to do this, but you're not doing it. Say, for example, in America, people sometimes do 50-50. 50-50 means the wife brings money into the family and the husband brings money into the family to pay bills. I've seen a lot of African men that would argue and say, oh, it's a woman's job to cook. It's a woman's job to take care of the children. It's a woman's job to take care of the home. And this woman have no guts or no nerve to tell that man that, well, I know my Islamic rights that says it's your job to provide, if that's what you want to do. So why don't we just cut it out and call a spade a spade? If you do want to practice the American system, I would say, face it. And if you do want to be religious, face it. Because those are the kind of things that, believe it or not, that causes infidelity. Somebody says, yes, when both parties are together, they should put in same energy and not leave one partner to do it alone. That's true. That's very true. If I'm putting in my energy that, okay, religious-wise, as a wife, I'm cooking, I'm taking care of the home, I'm taking care of the children, then I expect you as the husband to also take care of the bills. However, if we both came into the marriage with the understanding that we're sticking to the American system, if we're in the Western world, or even Nigeria sometimes, or the other part of the world, we find people doing the 50-50 too. But do not use religion to cover up. You cannot say, okay, I do want you to do all of this, and then the next minute you're complaining about something different. Remember, if you help your wife in that kitchen at that moment, she would have more time to be with you. She would have more time to, have more sexual things with you. Sometimes women can say they got tired. I got tired cooking. I got tired taking care of the children. Sometimes infidelity starts from that because of the religious perspective that says, oh, women should only be the ones in the kitchen. But once we start helping each other and knowing that we are a team, then we have good marriages. But once you start doing it as the master and slave, then you definitely have a failure. The rate of divorce now is so high. And when we look at that, it's a lot of people that, like I said, know the Bible and know the Quran. So why are these marriages crumbling? Because of lack of tolerance. Remember, marriage is not only based on love. You have to have that tolerance. You have to have kindness. You have to have good intention. Because sometimes, like I said, some people come into the marriage with a different intention. Or I got married to you with a different intention, thinking you are holy as thou, and then got to find out that I was married to maybe a whore that was just a cover-up. Is that fair? No. So when we start talking about religion and infidelity, what are the main things causing these problems? We need to start asking ourselves, What is causing the problem? Number one thing I see that is causing the problem is the lack of, telling the truth, lack of being honest, lack of being loyal. Because the religious, believe it or not, it says that we need to be loyal to our partners. But right now, we find out that a lot of people are only loyal to what they can get. So they're not even really practicing the religion anymore. Because if the religion is telling you that you have to be loyal, you have to be truthful, but here you are coming to the marriage with a deceit, then there's already a problem. There's already a problem. So I would advise us that when we're trying to get our partners, let's be clear. Let's not use religion to cover up. If you do want someone who is covering up, then stick to that person. If you want someone who is not covering up, stick to that person. Do not go for somebody with a hijab and knowing that even when somebody gives you a chicken, sometimes they want to know how that chicken is faring. If I was doing this to this person, how would I feel? That's what we need to start asking. That's the questions we need to start asking. Let's not keep going into marriages with the religious perspective that, okay, this is how this lady needs to look like, or this is how this man needs to look like. Maybe he needs to be all, covered up, or she needs to be all covered up. And at the end of the day, go in there and start cheating and having like extramarital affair. For me, I believe we shouldn't run away from problems and the inability to deal with, major cause of infidelity. Because we've been running away from this as people that are always covering up with religion. So it's high time we start working things out. If it is that it's sexually that your partner wants something, why don't you both go into that and explore? Why do you have to pretend that this is not who I am because of the religious, because I want to look religious to my husband? I'm not going to be maybe crazy on bed. Why? And why is it that some men also would not want to maybe do that with their women, but go out there and practice something different? This is wrong. If you do have a partner, it's time to start thinking as husband and wife and stop making excuses and find some ways that, you guys have an open door policy to talk about what you guys want. So that way you wouldn't always use the religious cover up to pretend that this is who we are. And as a matter of fact, that's not what you are. So let's always, like I said, have conscience and not bleed on innocent people. Because sometimes I've seen women that are very beautiful. Sometimes you even find they're very beautiful. They have, good character. They're very submissive, but the husband still cheats. At the end of the day, when they look at it from the religious perspective, they could say, oh, he was cheating because he wanted a hijabi. You were not, covering your head. Or he was cheating because, you were not opening your own body. And some people would say, oh, when I married her, she had all this, the spec I wanted. And all of a sudden she's acting like Sunday school teacher. So we all as a society have work to do. We always look at things with the religious perspective. That is why we always sometimes blame people that we're not supposed to blame. Because sometimes when you voice out, nobody would believe you. Oh no, that person is very religious. He's just lying against her. Or she's just lying against him. So it's high time we start, looking at things like that and stop making excuses. Somebody here says, there have been many examples where a spouse reported that they found a co-worker with whom they could share their problems and feel comfortable, which was the beginning of the affair. It comes as no surprise that most infidelity cases occur in workplaces where sympathetic co-workers offer a shoulder to lean on. So some people sometimes are already out there waiting for your marriages to break, believe it or not. And here you are whining to someone instead of talking things out with the person that you should talk to. You're not communicating. Like I said, whatever you do want in that marriage should be something about communication. If I wanted my husband to sleep with me every night, why can't I go and initiate the sex? What is stopping me from doing that? Because I'm a woman or because I'm a Muslim woman? And then we find out that some women too, when that man married you, you were very active. You were very, there are ways that I would wear a hijab and still look very beautiful. You don't have to be dressed half naked to look beautiful also. No. But some women also get married and then throw themselves out there and start tying wrappers all around the house. And maybe when he first married you, you were, dressing really well. So we don't have to always come out there to impress people. We need to do it to our spouses. Let your husband look forward to coming home. Let your wife look forward to coming home. Believe it or not, it's not only men that look forward to seeing their women looking good. We women also want our men to look good. So let's cut that crap out about, okay, religion says this. Even if you're a hijabist, there are other things that you could wear when you're just with your husband. You can continue wearing your hijab, but when you both are together, there are other things that you can wear to entice him. So let's stop crying on other people's shoulder and walk our marriages. Because believe it or not, a lot of times those people that you're out there crying to do not want your marriage to work. They're only waiting for you to have a problem, and maybe as a woman they start cooking for you and doing all sort of things. But would that solve the problem? No. You can have the sex. The sex could be great. The 5-minute sex or 10-minute sex or 1 hour sex could be great. And then you end up regretting for the rest of your life. So it's high time we start thinking. Also, men should act, another person says, also men shouldn't act too foolish and selfish by taking a woman's love for granted. Yes. Sometimes because the religion says that, okay, some like women cannot really say what they really want sometimes. A guy can turn around maybe and tell you that, oh, you're not supposed to be doing that. You're like acting like some crazy person. Some men find it weird that their women are the ones actually initiating sex, but are comfortable going out there to have it with other women that are initiating the sex with them that they are not married to. Are you thinking right? The energy you're taking out there, why don't you put it into your marriage? I do want my wife to be on top of me when we're having sex. Why don't you tell her? Why don't you teach her? I do want my husband this way and that way. Why don't you tell him? Why do you have to pretend because the religious tells you that you're supposed to, look modest or whatever? I believe that is for the outsiders. That is for the outsider. When you're with your husband, you're with your wife, you both should be able to tell each other about how you feel, about your needs and your wants. Believe me, a lot of people go into this infidelity thing because of the lack of understanding. And sometimes we find people that, hey, a cheater would always be a cheater. So sometimes you cannot even change people. Sometimes it's not about what you do. Like this brother said, he said, also men shouldn't act too foolish and also selfish by taking women's love for granted. So if you have a dog as a husband, no matter how good you are on the bed, or no matter how you have iteriba means respect, he would never be satisfied. He would still go out there and mess around. And later on use the religious madness on you that, after all, I'm a Muslim man, I can do whatever I want to do. So we have to start thinking, this is not just about me. This is about other people. Because believe it or not, you're not only affecting that woman. If you do have children, you're affecting the children too. Is that what we want our children to emulate about marriage? That we're supposed to be married and not happy in that, and also look for other people to make us happy? Or that maybe 5 minutes joy or 5-minute orgasm would make us happy? So it's high time we start thinking about others when we're doing things. Let's not always come with the religious perspective that, okay, religious-wise, I can do this and get away with this. And let's not always go out there looking at people that, this person knows the whole of the Holy Quran. He's the best person to get married to. I'm sorry. You will be running into someone who would, screw you up for the rest of your life sometimes. And sometimes you have people who know the Bible so well that you're like, oh my goodness, I just got a pastor. You would be messing around with the wrong person for the rest of your life. Because what you're looking at is not what you're getting yourself into. So let's not always think that because this person knows the Bible and because this person knows the Quran, that would make them to, not have affairs, or that would make them to be sincere in our marriage. Or because this person is dressed this way, that will make them never to cheat on me. We need to start taking that moment to sit down and meditate. If I'm doing this to this person's son, if that was my son, would I be happy? If I'm doing this to this person's daughter, if that was my daughter, would I also be happy? Can I take this? And cut out all this selfishness. You ruin people's life sometimes with the, deceit about this religious nonsense that they end up being with you because they think you're really religious, not knowing that you're just a hypocrite. We find a lot of hypocrites everywhere now. They come to the mosque, preach something, and they're out there practicing something different. They come to the church, preach something, and they're out there practicing something different. Why don't you just marry and be with your spec? Wouldn't that save a lot of lives? A lot of times you find therapists cracking their brains to fix your marriages. Why don't you just pick your spec and be with who you want to be with, and do not frustrate people to end up being with you and end up with depression and anxiety? Because believe it or not, this is where, mental illness starts from. Because if you already picked something and you're already so excited about it, because this is why I got attracted to you because of your hijab in the first place, and then the next minute you're confusing me. You're not okay. Now you're religious, but you're not spiritual. But I thought you really were spiritual. So not everyone is spiritual. So we need to start knowing the difference. Because I see a lot of people getting confused out there about being spiritual and also being religious. And that is why we have high rates of infidelity going on right now, believe it or not. If you do have some questions, you can send them in. And if you do want to join me in talking, do let me know so I can bring you into the program. But let me see. It says, this brother said, running away from problems and the inability to deal with them is a major cause of infidelity. There are times when instead of dealing with the problem at hand, husbands or wives end up making excuses, try to find some other ways that open the door to infidelity. So this is sad. If you're not talking about things in your home, what do you expect? Nobody can read minds. And if somebody is trying to talk to you and you're blocking them from talking to you, that is emotional abuse right there. Because you're not listening to them, you're isolating them. Is that the way you fix your marriage? No. So let's try and start speaking up. Let's not keep going out there and looking for shoulders to cry on. Like the first brother that I was talking about. He was crying on the imams, not knowing that it was the imams that were actually doing him. So imagine going to kneel for somebody who is actually sleeping with your wife, greeting them and kneeling down and thinking like they are your mentors. And then unfortunately find out that those are the people that are actually sleeping with your woman. How would that traumatize you for the rest of your life? So we really need to start thinking. When we're getting into marriage, it's not just about one person. Marriage is meant to be enjoyed. Marriage is meant to be a union. It's not something that we go into and start thinking about infidelity the next minute. If you want to sleep around, do not use religion as a project. Because believe it or not, some people are using religion to mess around. And they'll say, oh, religiously, I'm allowed to do this. Even Muslim women, there are some people that have already had the talk with their men. Oh, I cannot handle it. I cannot, have you marry another woman. If you both already had that understanding that you cannot marry another woman and you made a promise, why can't you stick to that? And better still, if you find yourself trying to start messing around, why don't you just come clean and leave that person peacefully rather than having them emotionally drained, mentally drained, and also, making them go crazy thinking, okay, what is he doing? Who could he be with? That is more than even physical abuse. So it's high time we as a society start thinking. And it's high time we women and men start thinking. Whatever we do know that we can tolerate should be what we should be with. I do not want you to want somebody in hijab and then be messing around with somebody who is half naked at odd hours or when nobody is watching you. You think nobody is watching you? God is watching you. That's why I always tell people, only God knows who is really worshiping him at the end of the day. We can come out and pretend to be whatever we want to be. But only God, only Allah has the final say of who really is worshiping him. It's not about the Bible, you know. It's not about the Quran, you know. It's about that intention you have to your fellow human being that God looks at. It's not all the pretending that I'm praying. Always pray. I'm not saying do not pray. But do not pretend to be what you are not. Do not give people a different perspective about who you really are. Do not confuse people. Because like I said, everybody has their spec. And if that person's spec was to be with somebody who was in fact really religious and following the practice of maybe the Holy Quran or the Holy Bible, then they do want you to stick to it, or whatever religion you're practicing, then they do want you to stick to it because that's the main reason why they got married to you in the first place. And sometimes we find out that some men too fall into, other women's shoulder to cry about, oh, my wife is this, my wife is that. Now, where does the religious perspective come into play with that? Are we thinking? Or are we not remembering what the religious is telling us to do when it comes to communication? So it's not everyone that, talk about religion that really practices it. So we really need to stop bleeding on people. We need to start acting like we presented ourselves and be ourselves. If only people can come with good intentions into marriages these days, we would have lovely marriages. Like I said, I've seen women that have respect. Yoruba will call it iteriba. That will cook from the morning to night. That would, have sex with their husband from morning to night. That are good in bed. That would go to work and make money for that family. That look good. Some of them are hijabis also. Some of them are not hijabis. Some of them, are choir mistress sometimes even in the church or whatever. Or they are leaders in the church or leaders in the mosques. But that does not stop whoever wants to cheat to cheat. So let's stop looking at it like if somebody is religious, they're not going to do this. No. 99% of time, they're the ones doing all the cheating. Because Yoruba would say, Talo Mamumi, who would get me? Like, after all, when you tell people nobody's going to believe you, because they know, who I am. But really, that's not who you are. That's who you pretend to be. So, let's start having good intentions. And you guys can send in your questions if you do have any questions. Let's see. Some people fall into having an affair simply because they feel that they are not appreciated at home, or that they are doing all the work in keeping a marriage and home together. Again, question to ask are this: am I appreciative of my spouse? Am I being the right person for my spouse? If more people harbored a servant's mindset for their spouse, more and more affairs and divorce could be avoided. Bravo. So why don't we start thinking and, stop looking at it from our perspective that everything has to go our own way? If I do want somebody that is rough, be with that rough person. Don't go and pick somebody who is not rough and, pretend to be something different. And like I said, communication, I'll keep stressing this. Communication is one big problem in marriages. Because sometimes the religion is not letting you to talk. Maybe as a woman, there are some things that some women are not even able to tell their husbands how they do want to be treated sexually, because they do not want to be seen as maybe whores. But this is somebody you're married to. This is somebody that you should feel free to talk to. But instead of doing that, they choose to go out there and start having an affair with other men. Is there a need for that? No. If only we start channeling all our energy into our spouse, you would see how that love and that family would bloom. If you don't water your flower, do you think it's going to bloom? No. So if you're not watering it, there's nothing that will be there at the end of the day. Whatever you put in there is what you get. The flower will die if you're not watering it. The grass is not green at the other fence. It's how you water your own grass that you see your own grass getting green. So stop making people fall victims for your bad intentions. Come clear into marriages with good intention. Because believe it or not, some people come into the marriage because, the religion says that, I have to marry this kind of person, but I'm marrying this person for another different reason. And after they are done getting what they want from that reason, then they use the religion also to tarnish the person's image and say, the person was not going by the religious ways. That's why they don't want to be with that person. So let's stop all the nonsense. And let's stop bleeding on other innocent people. And if you do know you need therapy, go for therapy as a couple. We do have religious leaders that are great in counseling. We do have other mental health people also that can be counselors that will talk to you. Sometimes when you say mental health, Africans will think you're crazy. You don't have to be crazy to see a therapist. You do not. Sometimes a therapist would hear you and hear your spouse to tell you where you both are going wrong. But with the culture, especially African culture, we find out that a lot of people are not open to therapy because it's not something that we're brought up with. That's why we are the ones having a lot of divorce rate. because we do not believe in seeking help with therapy or in counseling, and then the next thing is to find another partner. But remember, you're still going to bleed on the next person you're going to, because you're not focused. It's when you're not focused that you find yourself going around having affairs. When you're focused, you wouldn't even think about any other thing but that person. The energy you're putting out there to cheat with, why don't you put it in your home? If you do want that religious person, why don't you teach that person as a man or as a woman to be religious or to be spiritual? And like I said, if you do want somebody who has a different spec, that is to, keep opening their body, or who practices something different from what it is that you're looking for, then you need to have a talk about it. I believe the religion sometimes is not really making women to talk about their needs. Some would rather go out there and tell other men that they've been used to about what they want, instead of telling their husbands, because they do not want their husband to look at them, like I said earlier on, like a prostitute or like a whore. But you're married to this person. So what is the problem? If we're married, shouldn't we sit down and communicate? Of course, there would be times where you'd have misunderstandings. But if you're not willing to compromise, that's where the problem is also. So it's not just me when it comes to marriage. It's about everyone. But if you come to marriage with a mentality about just me, or if my husband does this, then I have to cheat, then the marriage is already gone. Because you already have a different mindset that you have to do this. So regardless of somebody pouring into it, one person cannot be pouring into the marriage. Because I've seen the instance where one person was pouring into the marriage, where the other person was just pulling it down. And with the society, they were looking at the person who was the one pouring into the marriage like they were the ones that were actually pulling the marriage down, because the other person was very religious. But forgetting that that person is not spiritual. So when you're spiritual, that's when you tend to have that conscience. Being religious does not mean you're practicing what you preach. Some people are religious, but they do not practice anything that they know in that holy book. And it's difficult for maybe the real imams or the real pastors to preach to people like that. Because once you're even coming to report people like that, they look at you as the crazy one, because maybe you're the one that don't even know anything about the religion, because you're not religious. So it's really sad. And it's heartbreaking to think that, we would continue like this for generations to come. Think about it. Would it be what we want to pass to the next generation? Because this is what I see going on right now. Because you would hear, oh, this person is very religious, let me just get married to the person. Then, bingo, infidelity starts. So do not go out there pretending to be what you are not. Stick to who you are. Stick to your people. If you are a dog, keep sleeping with the people that you love to sleep with. Practice being your dog yourself. Do not stain other people. Because after you get married to these people, you're injuring them emotionally and physically if you do not know it, and mentally. Because then they start getting sick. And before you know it, they start affecting people around them. Because they have to voice out to maybe one. Some people do not voice out, and that is where we find people committing suicide sometimes. So let's start having this conscience and thinking about what we're really doing. You know? Because if we continue like this, I don't even know if we're going to have marriages anymore. I don't think so. Because now, almost everywhere you go to the church, they tell you what kind of man you're supposed to be with. You go to the mosque, they tell you what kind of, man you're supposed to be with. But then you end up with a jackass. Because you married somebody thinking they are, really spiritual. And as a matter of fact, they really are not. They just are hypocrites. So let's cut the crap out on bleeding on innocent people. Let everyone come out with their good intentions. Whatever you do know you do want, go for it, please. And it's high time that the religion, let's not keep putting the religious perspective that, okay, this is what this person needs to look like before you can marry that person. Let whoever wants to marry whatever they want to get married to. Because this is why we're having a lot of high rate of infidelity, believe it or not. Because, well, I can just end up with her, but this is not what I want. I can eat my cake and have it after all. I can go and see the other one later in the night or later in the morning or at the office. That is where the problem is. And sometimes people would say, religious-wise, you're not supposed to question your husband. I come with a lot of respect for men. I was trained to always respect a man. But at the same time, you have to have your brain doing that. Because some men will take you for granted. You become like a foolish woman when they see that, the respect is so much. Sometimes some of them would take you for granted and try things that they shouldn't try with you because you had that respect. But they would think maybe you're a fool. So let's start looking at why the religion is saying, okay, I'm not supposed to be able to question my husband. I'm not supposed to be able to. Let's all respect each other. Let it be mutual respect. Let it not just be about one person. Let it not be one-sided relationship. Let it be about everyone. Because if we're only self-centered, there's no way the marriage would work. Because one person will be building it, the other person will be tearing it down. And believe it or not, like my colleague said the other day, he's like, ever since it's been easy to get somebody to sleep with, there's no love out there anymore. So people just feel I can get married today and tomorrow, get divorced and jump on the next one. They see marriage now as changing clothes. That sex you're looking for that is causing the infidelity, that style you're looking for, why can't you teach your partner if they don't know about it? If your partner is not initiating sex as a woman and that's what you want, that's your spec, why can't you talk about it? Why would you pretend and make religion not make you be able to voice out, but you're out there doing it somewhere? And as a woman too, speak up. You don't have to pretend to be religious. It's your husband. And if you need help, or actually, I don't even see a reason why, like in the Western world, we don't have help here. So why don't you help your wife so that you guys can have more time in that bedroom? Sometimes men will say, oh, she does not sleep with me because she's tired in the kitchen. She's done cooking. Now she has to care for the children. Now she has to clean the house. You see some men just sitting down like that. Some of them don't even have a job. Like Yorubas will say, Alakpa mashishe. They don't have a job. It's that woman that is feeding them. But at the end of the day, they will say, I'm the man. I'm the man. You are the man. You need to be respected, but you need to respect yourself also. So let's start putting all our energy into making things work. And let's stop looking for people to whine to. That is where your marriage will start breaking. And believe it or not, let's stop flirting around with other people, because that is where the infidelity starts from. Once you start deleting texts, that's a problem. Ask yourself, why am I deleting this text? What am I doing wrong that I don't want another person to see? Because if you're not doing anything wrong, I wouldn't see a reason why you should be hiding your phone. I wouldn't see a reason why you should, be deleting your text messages. I wouldn't see a reason why you should be cranky that your partner, touched your phone. We should all be able to give each other our phones for days without having to cry that somebody is going to find something. These phones have broken a lot of homes. But also, it has also saved a lot of homes. How did I say save a lot of homes? With the instance of the brother that I talked about. If it were enough for the phone, he wouldn't know that his wife was cheating because he looked at her as a godly person. This is somebody who was always telling him to go learn the Quran. This is somebody who would wear her hijab from up to, her legs, like hijabi. So when I say hijabi, it's like a Islamic veil that you use to cover yourself. And we find Christian women too that will cover everything, and then at night or some other time, they are busy on another person's bed. Why is that? Once you start finding yourself needing to be with another person, please respectfully let that person go so they can have their sanity. You're playing with somebody's emotions right there. You're playing with somebody's mental health right there. Let them go and you continue with your life. You cannot keep a dog with a cat. No. They would always have problems. So even if that cat is trying to, be the peaceful one, that dog will keep barking and looking for other people to sleep with. So a dog would always remain a dog Unfortunately, no matter what you do, a dog would never be clean. If he's already sleeping out there or she's already parading herself, unfortunately, sleeping out there with other men when she's married to you, she will continue doing that. So sometimes it's just part of them. And I'll advise you to seek mental help because it's sickening. Some men will look at it from the religious perspective that they are allowed to do that. No, even the religious have their, rules on how to go about doing it. So if you're not following the rules, check yourself in and find out how you can get help. Because some would finish with that lady and, of course, move to another person, and it's the same pattern that will keep repeating itself. It will be like a cycle. And another lady too can do the same thing, and it will be a cycle. A dog would always be a dog. You cannot clean them. So my own reason for making this program today is to tell us that we should please be mindful of how we are affecting other people's mental health, emotional health. Because if people are coming into marriages with good intention, then we wouldn't be having these problems. So do not come with the religious perspective that this is who you are. And then they end up finding out that you're not really who you are. That is why some men hate women. That they maltreat the next woman that they maybe get married to or are with. And some women hate men. And don't be a woman that would say all men are the same. No. There are good men out there. There are good women out there. So don't you ever say that because your partner has, exhibited the act of sleeping around that every woman is the same. Or every man is the same. And let's always make our boundaries clear. Religious or not, we really need to know about people's boundary and respect it. What did we come into this union with? What was the understanding? What was the agreement? That's what we need to start looking at. That's what we need to start looking at. The moment we start thinking about others and start thinking, if this was done to me, how would I feel? Probably we would think about it and have that conscience, if you do have conscience. Because people might think karma is not real. Karma is real. It might take years, but it will come back and bite you. I've seen, men that have suffered with women, women that have suffered with men. And at the end of the day, when they make it, that's when the infidelity starts. That's when the religious, I have rights comes in. We have to start differentiating that. We have to start knowing about things like that. So once you go home today, or some of you probably are at home, some are at work, ask yourself, what is it that I'm doing that I'm not doing right with my partner that I need to change? Sometimes we think it's that person that needs to change, but we're the problem. Ask yourself that. And have conversations with your partner. Some do not like to communicate, and that's where the problem is. They shut you down. And that's gaslighting. And that's abuse. When people start doing that, they gaslight you because they want you to think that you're the problem. And you find a lot of, partners who cheat doing that because they want you to think you're the one that is crazy. Some of them would blackmail you into thinking that you're the crazy person. Because you caught them cheating, they would use the religious things again to cover up. Like Islamically, they will say, "Oh, you're not supposed to keep searching for things or looking for things. Why are you being suspicious?" Bravo. Because of this, a lot of people come under that religious pretense and do a lot of murder and get away with it. So you're not supposed to be suspicious. But when somebody is acting funny, what else are they leaving you with to do? If that brother was not suspicious and found out that his wife just dropped the phone, actually innocently, and he got the glimpse of, text coming in, a guy saying that he was waiting for her at the hotel, would he have known? So start asking yourself those questions. Sometimes we use this religion to really destroy people. We use the people that know much about this religion, they would use every scripture to destroy you, thinking that you're the problem. Now, if that brother was to talk, maybe the imams would tell him, "Oh, why did you go looking?" That is, sinful too. What was he left with to do? This is somebody that he said that he cared for, that he was not even into buying women's lingerie. She told him how to do things like that, and he was doing it. What else would a woman be looking for? If somebody is satisfying you sexually, financially, physically, emotionally, what else are you looking for? Because sometimes I don't know what really people are looking for. Why do we have to use our crazy sexual urge to bleed on other people? So I advise you, if you know you have no self-control, stay single. Because we have a lot of people that are mentally ill now today because of the religious perspective of this is how marriage is supposed to be. That they end up being with somebody that they shouldn't be with. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the program today. And I do see that a lot of you wrote things here, and I'm going through them. If you do have any questions, like I said, bring them up. And if you do want to talk about some other things, do let me know. Okay? Other than that, thank you for buying your data, like other people that came from the other part of the world. And thank you for the people overseas that also joined, the people here in America, UK, Canada, everywhere. Thank you so much. We do appreciate you. Nigeria, Kenya, Jamaica, I see a lot of you. Thank you so much. To name but the few, South Africa, thank you so much. But we really need to start thinking and having conscience. All right. And we'll stop today over here. And may God continue to direct us. Have a good one. And thanks for coming to watch the program. Bye-bye.